Hi, Erik. Welcome back.
Thank you, Marji. It's great to be back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Today, I know we were talking about Mercury in retrograde and our hearts. So would you like,
Yes,
yeah.
thank you. Yeah, Mercury earlier this month, on the first week of the month, stationed retrograde, and it's going to be retrograde for most of this month. And just to kind of give you kind of my perspective on Mercury retrograde, which could be different from a lot of the people. I was just, in fact, talking with a client, and she was putting some blame on Mercury retrograde for the ills that are happening in her life. And yeah, Mercury actually is kind of ends up becoming a sponge or a scapegoat for all the problems that happen when it goes retrograde. But in reality, that's just it certainly deserves some of it, but not certainly all of it. And I look at Mercury retrograde and as a time when a person reaches into their creative center instead of the logical, rational stuff and needing to operate and formulate plans. It's a time for creative energy, time for our artistic endeavors to experiment, to use your imagination more, and work with vision, or instead of just logic. Of course, because we're so dependent on technology, we can have a lot of interruptions with that codependence that we have with it. And with Mercury retrograde in a particular kind of sign that it's in, Pisces, it has nothing to do with the real world. It has nothing to do with our solid matter, our that civilization in which we have. It's more up in the ether and more in the ether in the heart space. This is a completely different set of instructions for us. And the reason why I picked this topic is because when Mercury is retrograde right now, there's plenty of activity in the sign of Pisces, and also with the planet Neptune, as in addition to this, that is helping bring out and open up to our connection between the heart and the mind, and to connect with our dreams, connect with that form of reality, not so much about this real world. Now, of course, we still need to do what we need to do to survive and to
To make our
earn money
breakfast and to,
and be of
right?
service.
Yeah.
Absolutely, put a roof over our head and put food on the table, so to speak. But it's a great time to open up the heart waves, to volunteer, be of service to people, to show up, to connect, with those that are in need, and to do it in a way where you're not having expectations, you're not having some sort of attachment, but you're doing it out of service, out of a certain place of the heart and love, not from an egoic standpoint at all. It's like removing that from the picture at all, or completely, and going in from a place of just being being of service, being giving.
True. Your true authentic self is how I feel about it. It's
Yeah.
so natural and flowing that it just happens.
Yeah, and even though not everybody on this planet has instructions that are about being of service, but we all have, on a minimal level, some level of empathy and compassion for others, for ourselves, and for the world in general. And it's a matter of accessing that within ourselves and taking advantage of this time. Pisces retrograde, I'm sorry, not Pisces retrograde, but Mercury retrograde in Pisces. Mercury retrograde can happen in any sign. It can happen, Mercury retrograde can happen 3 or sometimes 4 times a year, so it's fairly common. And its period of retrograde is roughly about 3 weeks, 3 to 3.5 weeks. But Pisces, yeah, it really is the sign of that being of service, of showing up for your fellow human beings, of connecting with on a spiritual level, really going out and connecting with that part of yourself and the oneness of it all, the oneness of all of us, all our relations, that there is no separation, that we're in the grand universal ocean of life, and that Piscean energy is, can show up very strongly during this time. And I wondering if I can share my screen and show people
Yes, please. Oh,
a
please.
chart and what that looks like. So what we have here is on this screen. This is today, March 15th, at the time of the interview. But I can animate this for for the this next few weeks. So Mercury is right here. So the time of this interview is retrograde. It's right near the sun. It's hidden in the glare of the sun. It's with great mystery. It's really in a time of transition, metamorphic transition. Mercury is. But Vesta asteroid, Neptune is there. This is bringing out the sacred, the celestial energy in us, in the collective. Again, bringing more confirmation, enforcement to be of help, to show up for others, and to volunteer your time, and go, even sometimes going off on your own and connecting, having your own vision quest experience, spiritual experiences that are beyond the reality, to do dream work. So as I go through this, and when I get to the point, this is one of the biggest parts of this interview, is when Mercury stations direct. And what do you mean by that? Well, Mercury is caught up to Earth's orbit in the solar system. So from our perspective, standing on Earth, it's looking like that Mercury isn't moving. But in reality, it's just that the orbits have synced up a little bit for temporarily until Mercury moves faster than the Earth, so it'll pass by Earth, and then eventually that station's direct and it'll go into direct motion. So that's what's happening. And then on March 27th, that's when it stations direct.
So how long does that stay there?
In the station direct?
Yes.
It's just a couple of days.
Okay.
The 27th and 28th is when it's in that stillness period.
Okay.
And then it starts to pick up steam, move slowly on the 29th, but you won't really notice it moving for about another 5 to 7 days. And then then you can start to really understand it. It starts to move the more direct way. But during this time, it's going to be with Neptune, the planet Neptune, which is the planet of dreams, the planet of the celestial ocean, the great oneness, our connection to the wholeness, and to the unreality of it all. It has nothing in its language about our goings on, what we have to do for work, what our errands, our relationships are, when it comes to the complexities. It's just about the love and oneness and the dream walk. And so Neptune is emphasizing this power, and having Mercury station within a degree of Neptune, that just provides greater focus to our connection to the dream realm, our connection to being of service and opening our hearts. And the mind is, a lot of times we like to think that the mind and heart, are that there is a, we're cut off from that. But the heart speaks to the mind a lot underneath it all. And the heart is what has a lot of control over there. And we just have to, but a lot of us in Western culture tend to tune out and go from a more egoic standpoint, more into rationality. But the heart is not about rationality. It engages in the passions and the desires and the love. And when we feel something strongly, we feel it in our chest and in our gut. It's not, we don't feel it so much in our head. That's the place of our mind. So it's opening up to that place that's lower underneath, where our body's talking to us, where our heart's talking to us. And there's a lot of wisdom and power there that we can come into ourselves. In addition, we can even connect with the celestial realm much more fully and actively is if we, recognize and participate even in our dream states when we're going to sleep. There's lots of wisdom in the subconscious and in even deeper levels that we can glean that help us in everyday life. And that's like connecting with Pisces, connecting with Neptune. And during this time frame, I would say, one could even say, because Mercury slows down during this time, it's like really, I would say more so from the 21st of March through March, well, actually, first 4 days of April. I would say that period of time is when Mercury is not moving very much at all. Even in the center point in 27th and 28th, where it's really at a standstill. During those other days between equinox and March equinox, and then the first week of April, there really is very little movement at all. And so whenever a planet, from a shamanic astrology perspective, which is the paradigm that I operate from when it comes to astrology, when a planet stations direct or retrograde, it's in a particular part of the sky for a long period of time, roughly. I mean, the slower the planet, the longer the period. For Mercury, it's sitting in between the two constellations, the Water Bear and the Fish. Yeah. Not the signs. These are constellations and signs are different, and so it's kind of in a space between constellations. It's in a space that has can be anything that how I've come to know the space between constellations is imagination, creativity, a space of creation. It's almost like a super new moon where you can start something fresh and new and not have any boundaries. And Pisces can operate, and that just further confirms Pisces can operate much more fully in that zone.
Space.
Yeah.
Erik, can we bring you up a little bit bigger so that I can get you back on screen? Would that be
okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
We can go back to it if you want, but
absolutely, yeah.
Okay, yay, thank you.
But I wanted to kind of share that and give people kind of an imagery around at least from the astrology chart perspective.
Yeah. So can I ask a couple questions? What are some maybe physical things? I know that when we have the information ahead of time, it's like kind of giving us like a playbook, right? Like we have the ability to navigate and work with ourselves more freely and in flow with what's actually happening. And we visualize that sometimes as outside of ourselves, but really we're connected to all of those things. So what are some physical things that people might experience during this time?
I think that during this time, the physical things may be turned into more of the symptoms of the mind around. This is certainly very much Neptunian process, but with Mercury involved too, definitely up in the mind. So what I would share is that there could be times of greater doubts, of confusion, of the unreality. So when I say the unreality is that what could be happening is not entirely real. It could be an illusion. It could be, kind of a romantic dream of something that isn't fully formed. And that could lead to a confusion and thinking about, like, you could even be lost in your own process about what you thought you were doing at the time. Maybe not even realizing when you're driving that you've made a wrong turn somewhere. You're thinking you're going back into a certain habit, but you were supposed to go somewhere else. Yeah. Like things just not clicking right.
And almost feeling like an ungroundedness, right?
Yes.
Like that. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, a scattering happening.
Yeah.
Like you're in this greater field, and like you're having a loss of sense of direction. Yeah. And even though your mind is still trying to focus and put it all together and try to direct traffic in your, in your thoughts and your perception, it's really going to be really challenging to try to get grounded during this time.
Yeah.
Now, there are other planets, other things happening, you know, that these Pisces stuff isn't operating in a void, but we are living, I mean, currently in a challenging time in general, in a very intense time. I mean, Pluto and Saturn, for example, are close together, and they're going to be close together for the next couple of months, which is setting up a whole major plot line in 2020 and 2021. That's a subject for a later time. But right
And we
now,
will do that.
yes, we will definitely do that. But it's just challenging to just try to get a hold of anything, to you know, grabbing the steering wheel, the handles, and trying to figure out where you need to steer to. The best advice that I would share with you is just to go with what's happening, to allow it to come through and not to resist it.
Yeah.
Not to try to force something to happen. Yeah, you want to, in some cases, stay focused, you know, especially in sensitive situations, but when you're dealing with really delicate things, but to go with the flow and allow the heart to also communicate, the dreams to communicate with you, and ultimately the cosmos, the transmissions that are coming in to share with you like some form of guidance to do whatever dream walk that needs to be done during that time. I know people that go through entire initiations that are Neptunian, can be very challenging because we live in a very grounded, structured world. If we had a world that that supported something like this, we would have an outlet, more of a greater outlet for it, a way to like embody it more in our lives.
That's right.
And it's okay where we can give ourselves permission to be lost and confused.
I was just going to say, you know, it's a deeper understanding and the permission to do that and understand why we're feeling that way is so important for people who this might be new to them, right?
Yes.
The other thing is, and I want to share is like, it's okay for ask for permission or ask to be shown in your dreams or your visions, right? You know, as I'm
Absolutely,
going to
Marji.
bed, I just had a friend do that last night and shared like what came in, and it was like so powerful because it's basically telling yourself, or at least for me, I want to know this and I want to connect to this part of me and work with this, and it's honoring that out loud.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, one of the things in my own life that I can apply here is my own astrology chart, and just what I was born with is some really powerful or heavy Neptunian energy on my chart. A lot of celestial, and I got major Pisces on my chart too. So what I'm sharing there is like, well, the dreams, I remember being, before I became an astrologer, I was in commercial insurance for a long time. And there were times where my dreams ended up in the office in a sense where I was like remembering them and thinking, wait a minute, did that happen? Was that real? Did that really take place? And even though I was trying to focus on some kind of work, I was way off in the dream world. And it was like it couldn't, like my mind couldn't like try to, and I had to put some extra effort into focusing.
Yeah.
But if we were supported and to be able to be, and if there's some message coming through, you know, when that sort of thing happens, and you know, there's some wisdom, something that's coming through to help us be in a space where we can help ourselves. And one thing about Pisces and Neptune is a sense of moving through life with grace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I talk about the non-resistance part, is to move through it with a sense of, even in sometimes difficult circumstances, that grace can step in through that noise, so to speak, and you know, can amaze yourself and tune into, you know, the authentic part that's coming through more and more.
I love that you said grace. That's one of my favorite energies to align to and to keep in my heart. I do want to share. Okay, so the silly question-ish, maybe. I'm driving down the road and this starts happening, because it does. Like, what are some practical skills you could give someone who's feeling disoriented in a situation where they have to be present, right?
Right.
Uh, I just, one of the things that I do is say for myself is like, I really want this information to come in, and I like acknowledge that it's there. But right now I'm in like bumper to bumper traffic. You know, like, can you put this in my space, and I will look
Ah,
at it as soon as I pull over or
this is
whatever.
this is a great tool where in this type of environment, this type of energy with Pisces and Neptune is and Mercury retrograde is the dissolving of these attachments to, like, for example, the anger that can come up in traffic, the frustration that can arrive. It's the letting go. It's the dissolving of that within yourself, of saying, wait a minute, this is not healthy for me. I don't need this. And to, when the dreams step in, when you might be getting the confusion, just not, I'm not saying to allow them to take over, but recognize them, become aware of them. And if you're able to even at times just pull over for a few minutes to give yourself a chance to breathe, you know, take that opportunity to do that, because there could be something really valuable for you right there. You know, I know I've experienced frustration and anger in traffic in my life, you know, especially when I was commuting a lot in insurance. And I felt how stressful and unhealthy it was. And even in times when there was challenges where I've had long delays, I've had to breathe really deeply and let go, and that this is beyond my control.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I can do. I don't. There's a sense of powerlessness in some form, but it's more of a opening up to that. This isn't, that there's a synchronicity, that there's a intent behind this that's important to acknowledge, and not to be attached to it. If you're going to be late, then you're going to be late. There's, you know, nothing you can, no power in the universe that can suddenly appear and teleport you to where you need to be in that very moment in time. So I hope that answers your
Yes,
question
yes.
about that.
I was just, when we feel that ungroundedness, and I'm very fortunate that I don't typically drive in traffic. So, but I know that when I have been in situations where, say, there was an accident and I'm blocked in, instead of like being frustrated, it's a great opportunity to practice one, gratitude for the stillness I'm given in that moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also like this, I always feel like that, or I often feel like that when this pressure is on us, whether it's to be angry or like frustrated that we're in that situation, and this is traffic, which isn't like, you know, a dire situation. We're just in a situation. And so if I lose the ability to connect with myself in that situation, what will happen if I'm in a situation that is putting a little more pressure on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can hold my power in those spaces, I will be able to like do that in a little more high pressure situation for sure.
Oh yeah, and you know, certainly if there's even more intense situation where you're seeing there's an accident and maybe even people were hurt, and you know, that can be of letting this letting go, a letting go of the stress is going to be still present on some level, but it's saying, okay, what's meant to happen is happening. Something is being evolving here. Something is being transformed on some level, and you are moving through it, and that's where you can tap into some level of grace in your own life, and not allow this to send you careening off the road in frustration and anger to try to get around traffic or something.
Yeah.
You know, just it's, I have to remember it for my own self too, because I can get, I am not, as an astrologer, I'm not immune to the astro energy, so to speak, that are happening in the world. I've got to be able to connect and be in my human space to show up for myself. But you'd rather be elsewhere, when you're in that space.
Yes.
But being present with yourself, and maybe opening up, maybe with some kind of music, or connecting with maybe a recorded wisdom that you might tune into, both audio and just in ethereal transmissions. That could be a time to take advantage of that. Now, again, if you don't want to be way too far enough outside to where you're, gonna crash your car if you're
That's right.
way off in the dream realm. That's why I would say, if you start moving in that direction, to pull over.
Yeah.
Find the nearest space to do that. So, but these are great questions, Marji.
Well, and what I like about how you're answering them and just our communication is, it's wonderful to have all of this information so we can, like, one, not think that we're losing it when our brain does that, right?
Yeah.
But also help us to help ourselves navigate through some of these things a little more smoothly, but also some practical skills, since we are in human form, and what some people may have in their daily life, right? I mean, you and I shared earlier about, I actually left early for specific reasons so I wouldn't be in that stuff, right?
Yes.
Because for me, that's like, I'd rather get less sleep and do that than put myself in something that would tend to potentially stress me out, right?
Right.
And then I have more freedom, and I can sing and listen to stuff. But we are in situations daily, some of us, that do put that pressure on us. And so having some practical applications that we can do in our daily lives is so beneficial. And to think,
Absolutely. And actually the breath itself is probably that first conduit for us to being able to let go of the stress and the anger, the frustration, and to do it in a way that's practical and deeply. That's like our conduit to the cosmos, because we literally inhale the cosmos, and on a cellular, on a microscopic level, it's all breathing into us, and you choosing intentionally to avoid it by making some level of sacrifice for yourself, and by leaving extra early. I've done that myself, and I admit it definitely gives one a break. If you know that you can avoid it, you may not get as much time at a certain location, but you will open up and avoid additional stressors that your body and your heart may not be able to take.
Yeah. I like being, for me, it works very well, so that when, in the case of yesterday, I was being of service for someone, and I was able to maintain a great energy level in the process, with avoiding, right?
Yes.
Some other external influences, for sure. Anything else you want to share about this next time period?
No, I think we've covered it. And I'm looking forward to doing another segment in the near future. But this particular period of time is really valuable to acknowledge and to honor within ourselves, and for everyone to open up, and we need more heart, we need more love, we need more our connection to spirit and dreams. We have too much into there's too much ego and reactive energy out there. So this could be a valuable time for us to connect with the other side.
I feel like this is also a really important time to remember that feeling within, as it preps for things coming in the future. It'll help us with our foundation a little bit. Yeah,
there's an intent. It's not here to just wipe us all out. It's here to help us grow and evolve consciously and into the next incarnation that is coming in the years to come.
Erik, thank you. Thank you so much. Now, let everyone know where they can reach you.
Yeah. And it's spiralnexus.com, INSPIRALNEXUS.com. And that's also my email address, and spiralnexus@gmail.com. And you can look for me there. I've got lots of articles and other sharings, astrological sharings that I tune into. So feel free to dive in. Of course, I give readings as part of my practice, and I teach classes, which, of course, I'm doing coming up here in Sacramento next month,
Yay.
27th and 28th. Yes.
I'm
yes,
looking
really
forward to
excited
it.
about that.
Erik, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Marji.
All right.
It was
Bye-bye.
great. Thank you.